Hello and welcome to Mind, Mood and Food podcast with me, Margaret Bell, anti-diet powered coach and gut health expert, and my partner in crime, Adele Derbyshire.
Hello, I am a yoga teacher and creator of Find Your Inner Sparkle, which is a toolbox, 50 ways to help you to look and feel better from the inside out.
And this week, we're going to talk about anxiety and fear.
Dun, dun, dun. This should be going out for Halloween, I think, with that voiceover, Margaret.
Let's say it again. Anxiety and fear.
But I think it is summer rather than...
I know.
But if you are listening to this on replay around Halloween... No, but we do make light of it, but sometimes this can be so debilitating. And I know, like, firsthand, because I have lived with quite a great deal of fear, I would say, for as long as I can remember. And I got to a point a few years ago where, you know, if anyone's ever heard me tell my story, which you may have done, that really the fear, which I didn't really label it as fear at the time. I labeled it as stress and burnout and, you know, exhaustion and anxiety. Just really didn't know what it was, but it was one day that I was doing meditation, which is why meditation is so beautiful and really enlightening, that I was feeling into a physical sensation in my body, actually, where I feel discomfort and tightness, which for me is in my chest, and wondering what it was and just meditating on it. And this word came up, fear. And like, I almost cried with relief that I'd got this sort of like answer and label, if you like. And I was like, oh, yeah. And this little voice was like, you know, bless you, you've lived your whole life in fear, and you're constantly on edge and you're watching for what could possibly go wrong next. And that's why you're tired, and that's why you're in pain, and that's why you can't breathe properly and take a nice, calm, deep breath, because it just kept getting stuck, no matter how much yoga I'd done. Like, you know, I was teacher training at the time, or I'd just finished my teacher training, actually. So I'd done 3.5 years in-depth yoga and just still couldn't understand why my breathing was not quite there and things like that. And so this one word, this cloud, if you like, was just, I recognized it was just sat over my head like this little rain cloud. And it was a relief. It was just like, at least I know what it is that has been causing me all this mischief all these years.
You know what? I can completely and utter relate to that, because I think, and you might get this as well, Adele, that when you go in business by yourself, I have had it for a while, and it actually, and I know this is not going out till summer, but I've just done a wellness retreat in the last week or so, and we did a gong bath meditation. Now, I have done one before, but this one was really, really intense, because this is probably going a bit woo-woo for some people, but we did a cacao ceremony beforehand. Wow, my goodness. I had so many kind of colours coming for me, and again, this is going even more woo-woo.
I like the woo-woo.
I obviously know about the chakras, and the main colour for me was purple, which I do believe is to do with your higher self, I think.
Yeah, usually around the third eye chakra, so your intuition and things like that. Yeah,
exactly. And a lot of what I was feeling was let go of the fear. Just let
so you connected into that higher self, and that message of let go of the fear is really timely for us talking about this today, because we all want to let go of it. I guess it's just, well, all right then. How do I
How?
do that? And yeah, how do I do that? And how do I even begin to understand my own anxieties and fears and what they are? And I've really realized recently that I've got 50 different tools that I use in my business, and every one of them starts with awareness, because if you've got to start with where you are, you've got to start by understanding your own personal situation, and the landscape of your mind is going to be different to the landscape of my mind. Like, everybody's mind is different, and it comes from our old friend, the inner child, the childhood experiences. So we have done a podcast on the inner child, so if you haven't heard that, go back, check that out. But the inner child is born, like, when we are born, we're all safe and cocooned in our mother's womb. We're breathing by our mother. We don't even have to breathe ourselves. We don't have to feed ourselves. We don't have to think for ourselves. Everything's nice and safe. We're floating around in this nice little comfortable, warm, watery pillow. And then we get born, and it's like, we have to breathe. We don't know how we do it. We just do it. We breathe, we cry. We then learn that we're utterly dependent on somebody else. And if we're lucky, we have a lovely nurturing mother, but not everyone does have that. We have loving parents, and we have that support around us, but we soon learn very, very early on, things are not always rosy and beautiful like they were when we were floating around in our mother's womb, because we get hungry, and that's like a form of suffering, isn't it? Like, rah, I'm hungry. We learn that sometimes we get told off. As we start to grow, we get told off. We get told to be quiet. We desire things, and we want to take the toy, and then we take our brother or sister's toy, and then we get told off for that. We might get smacked. We might get yelled at. We might get told that when being naughty, we're not good. And we learn that the world has got all this suffering in it, and we learn to be fearful, and we store all these experiences away in our subconscious. We've talked about it before, that triangle of the conscious mind being up at the top, the subconscious being below the surface, and the subconscious is huge. So we're not even aware most of the times of why we've got that funny little feeling in our tummy, or that tightness in our chest, or whatever it might be that's causing our fear and anxiety. And of course, we can be frightened of so many things. We can be frightened of getting it wrong. We could be frightened of failure. We can be frightened of illness. We could be frightened of death. Like, try and push that away, but that's one of the certainties.
Success.
We can be frightened of success, because we can be frightened of getting the thing. Are we capable of getting the thing? Are we capable of doing the work? Or what if we get it, what if we get it wrong, and we show ourselves above the parapet, and then it all comes crashing down? Because then we can be frightened of losing it. Once we've got it, what if we lose it? Once we desire a beautiful car, or a nice home, or even a partner, we then frightened of losing them. What if they suddenly decide they don't want to be with us anymore? What if somebody nicks the car? So this is all, everything's linked to yoga when I look at all these different things, because the fear of losing something is to do with attachment and non-attachment. So there's nothing wrong with, like, wanting things and having that kind of goals and dreams and desires, and we're here to experience all the things, so why wouldn't we? But if we then cling, and we're frightened of them going away, and that means that somehow defines us, and if that thing is no longer there, whether that is a loved one, because they may die at some point and leave us that way, or they may just leave us if they're a partner or something like that, if that leaves us feeling less than, if we lost our house or our car, or if we can bring that to the surface and actually have some awareness of what our fears are, then we can work with them, because then we can be like, well, I'd still be all right. If that happened, I'd still be okay. I'd manage, I'd handle it. I would be able to deal with that.
And it's that realization, isn't it? That, it might be heartbreaking to go through, but you can make it through.
You can make it through. And this saying of I can handle this is something that like is really, really important for us as humans. If you think about, I once heard a training that talked about like an iPhone, you know, how many iterations has an iPhone been through to become version 13 or whatever they're on now. I think my cat might be about to start meowing. I'm just keeping an eye on her. These are not
Brilliant.
edited. But if we think about an iPhone that's been through like 13 iterations, or might be more by the time this goes out, they get better each time, don't they? So they upgrade, and they make the camera better, and they make the sound better, and they you know, put better software on, they get better at bug fixes and all that stuff. But if you think of how many iterations a human being has gone through, like since when we were first cavemen, and then, you know, we constantly evolving, you know, the way that evolution works, the strongest survive, so that the genes just get, you know, better and better and better. And we're so capable of handling things in the present moment. And this is something else I wanted to touch on to do with anxiety and fear, because usually once you start doing this work and understanding what your anxieties and fears are, and you might say, well, how do I do that? Well, it's awareness of your thoughts. So I would do that through meditation. I would do that through journaling, and maybe even talking therapies if you need that. So get it out, you know, bring it to the surface. Don't push it down. Don't turn the telly on and watch telly, or, you know, have a drink because you're trying to like mask these fears. Just let them come up, journal, meditate, talk. And then once you're aware of what your triggers are, because they'll be pretty repetitive, you'll find you'll have like fears that go on a cycle and just keep coming back up. Then understanding that when you're in the present moment that you can handle anything. But if you are worried about something that's not happening until next week or next month or next year, or your fears are based on something that happened in the past and you're dredging it back up again and you're replaying that movie in your mind, we're not very good at handling that. Because it's not real. It's like we're sat watching a movie. It's on the screen. It's on the screen of your mind, and it's not in front of you. Like if you've got a fear about getting somewhere, finding your way, having enough fuel in the car, you know, getting lost, car breaking down, all those things. If you're dealing with that sat on your sofa thinking about it because it's something you're doing next week, there's not a lot you can do in that moment. All you're doing is making yourself suffer, making your breathing tight, making your tummy, you know, get all nervous, tightening in your chest, wherever you feel that tension. If it's today and you're ready to set off, you'll get the map, you'll find out where you're going, you'll make sure you've got enough fuel in the car, you'll phone ahead and check that there's parking or whatever it is that you need to do. You'll do the steps because it's real and because you can do that. But you can't do that if it's not here yet and it's projecting forwards or back. So being mindful and living more in the present moment is one of the biggest tips that I think, after you've got that awareness. So like tip number 1 would be to get that awareness. Tip number 2 would be to be more present.
I think that's a huge thing, because one, the past has happened. You can't, best will in the world, you can't do anything about it. On, you know, Martin McFly might be able to, but
the doc.
And the future. It's not happened yet. All you can deal with is what's happening now. And I can remember when my mum was still with us, we had this conversation quite often, because she used to get nervous and anxious with going to the doctors. I'm like, well, Mum, you don't know what's going to happen there. So is there any point in worrying about something that hasn't happened or something that may never happen?
I think I used to do this so much, and fortunately, my hubby seems to be really good at nipping it in the bud. So if I'm starting to even have a conversation about something that I'm worried about, that's like not until next week or next month, just won't even entertain it. He's just like shuts it down. He's like, oh, that's I'm dealing with today, and he's really good at that.
Yeah.
And I think he's been a really good um kind of guru for me in that area, because this is the work of yoga. So as well as all the work that I've done on meditation and mindfulness through my yoga teachings, I think you just really need to practice it. You can't
Mm.
you can learn about it and kind of have that knowledge, but that embodied wisdom only happens when you start to practice it. So if you can say to somebody that you live with, would you mind just picking me up on this if you hear me doing it? And then the more that happens, if you've not got anyone that will do that for you, then maybe get that journaling practice going, where you do a little bit of journaling every
Mm.
day, getting something out of your mind onto paper. So if you're
So
like,
true.
right, what am I worried about today? What is on my mind? And immediately you'll see that a lot of it is about something that's in the future. And if you then look back, so say you're worrying about that, going to the doctors or driving to the place, whatever it might be for you, it it 9 times out of 10, it will not unfold how you thought it was going to
Mm.
unfold. It's usually better than what you thought.
Yeah.
Or the other thing that I found that constantly happened when I did this was it didn't happen at all.
Mm.
So say you're worried about going somewhere and then the event gets cancelled, and you spent all this wasted energy going, well, how am I going to get there? What if what if you're doing like public speaking and then you
Mm.
worry yourself about it and then it doesn't even happen. The
Yeah.
people cancel the event. I don't know, maybe you was worrying about something pre-COVID, and then COVID hit, everyone was locked down, no one could even go anywhere.
Yeah.
And then you could never have foreseen that happening.
Nope.
But you might have been spending the amount of people that would have been spending so much time worrying about things that then
Mm.
didn't happen. Well, something else came around the corner that was like, right, we'll
It's
deal
like,
with
hang
this.
on. Whoa, bloody hell.
Yeah. Then everyone would have been worried about getting sick, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
What if I get
Absolutely.
sick? And I didn't do that. I'm never to this day, touch wood, I've not had COVID. But if I
Yeah.
do, I'll get it. I'll deal with it when I get it.
Mm.
I'll do the
Yeah.
things I need to do if and when I get it.
Yeah.
But my brother really worried quite a lot about getting COVID. I don't think he really liked to admit it, but
Mm.
he was quite anxious about it, and that became apparent. And but I think he did get it eventually, and yeah, he was a bit poorly, but he got over it. It was all right. But you know what? If you don't, that there's that thing of um the ultimate fear is
Mm.
death.
Yeah.
But that's going
Wow.
to happen to us all at some stage. So if you can get over that, we
Mm.
don't know. We don't know when.
Nope.
No one knows.
No.
And we don't know what's beyond that. We have no idea.
No.
But if we can learn to get
Your
over
cat
that
does.
fear, yeah, so that's my cat joining into the podcast. When we finish recording this, I will let her out, I promise, to all those worried about the cat crossing her legs. She'll be fine for a few more minutes, hopefully. She's just joining in. The dog's asleep, the cat is not. Yeah, the
It's
ultimate fear, is something that a lot of people really try to not think about. But
mm.
if you can get over that, then you're kind of a bit like a superhero, right? Because then
Yeah.
you're like, well, if that happens, it happens. My
Exactly.
time is up. It is what
Yeah.
it is.
We've all got this. I believe we've all got this stated amount of time, and
Mm,
I don't think we can change that. So when your time is up, it is up, and it is inevitable that all of us will pass away.
hmm
So it is a tragic thing that it happens, but crikey, if it didn't happen, there'd not be enough room.
I know. And we don't know. Like, I do believe we've all got different belief systems, but I do believe that we're all, because we know that we're made of energy. We know that that's like a fact. And we know that energy it can't be, created or destroyed. It's always going to go back to source. So we must go back to something. And whatever that is that you believe in, that indistinguishable spark of life that's in each and every one of us, like this little sparkle dust that creates our uniqueness, that doesn't end. Just
No.
this body does. It's like renting a car. It's going to run out at some point.
Yeah.
It's going to like go to the scrapper's yard because it's flesh and bone, and it's not going to last forever.
Yeah.
But that the energy that's inside of us, that gets recycled and reused. So if whatever works for you, but I like to believe in that, because that's means that it's not the end when this body dies anyway. So, and like, what would you do and who would you be if you weren't afraid of failure, of getting it wrong, of what other people think? So this is one of those subjects that, like we say on every podcast, it's one of my closely sort of it's dear to my heart, because I have suffered with it maybe more than most, this kind of general anxiety, or high functioning anxiety, as it's sometimes called, because it doesn't in me, there she goes again, it doesn't in me stop me from doing things like it does in some people. So it may stop you from going places at all, if you're agoraphobic and you're frightened of like leaving the house, and how debilitating that could be. Mine is more like general anxiety or high functioning anxiety, so I will still do things and nobody would know like that what's going on beneath the surface, which
but you have that knot, just that feeling of just
a lot of the time, and still, despite a lot of the work that I do, I am aware, sometimes more than others. And again, this could go on for a long time to talk about everything to do with this topic, but you can be getting that awareness of when your triggers are, what triggers you, external events that trigger anxiety and fear, internal events like your cycle, the energy of the moon, full moon, new moon, all of that sort of stuff. It's really good to get aware, to keep a journal, to track it, your mood, track your cycles if you're a lady, and just find out, like, also linking it to foods that we eat, that you would know about, and gut health and things like that. There are factors that affect it, as well as the workings of the mind, and listening into the inner child. Really take the time to do the work and go back and listen to that inner child podcast as well, because that dovetails nicely with this one. Understanding what your triggers were growing up, and what experiences that you had personally that leave you feeling a little bit, like I feel a bit vulnerable when somebody says that to me, or when this happens and that happens. But fundamentally, learning to recognize your thoughts, knowing that they are just thoughts.
They're a story that just hasn't been written yet.
And that you can change your thoughts. So you can use things like affirmations. You can just turn to your thought, flip it, do the opposite thought, see how that feels. Try the opposite thought on. If you're thinking, oh, what if this happens? What if it doesn't happen? Try the opposite, or try saying, even if I get sick, or even if I go to the doctors and they give me some bad news, whatever that is, I will handle it. Just learning to train your mind. It is a practice. It does take work. And if anybody is really struggling with this, then definitely just go and, speak to somebody, get some help. I do offer one-to-one yoga coaching, which would cover a lot of this, where I've helped a lot of clients just to understand their own fears, what makes their mind work. So sometimes you don't see your own, it's difficult to see your own things, but so feel free, you can definitely reach out to me. I'm coming to let you out, Kat. You can definitely reach out to me, or to somebody else, to a coach or a therapist, but don't struggle, don't keep it locked in. You want to get it out into the open. Let it come to the surface. The worst thing you can do, the worst thing is to squash it down and to keep it hidden. That will just manifest physically. in ways that you don't always know, but having those fearful thoughts and keeping them trapped in, it will just manifest in making you
Yeah,
poorly, really.
absolutely. Yeah, I can definitely second that 100%. Journal, meditate, yoga, get it
Breathe.
out of your system. Breathe. Get it out of your system.
Yeah.
And
Talk, write it down, get support.
see what can be done about it. I
Mm,
think we've only touched the surface on this
definitely
because
on this one. I knew this one would be a meaty subject, but I do have to go, unfortunately, because my cat is
it's gonna
meowing
it's
a
gonna
lot.
climb the door.
It is because I've shut the door so that I can do this, but I'm going to have to put her out now.
Thank you so much for joining us today. As we said,
You,
we've
me,
touched
and the cat.
this. Yeah.
Thank you,
We've only touched
Jill,
the
for your
surface on
contribution.
this one, so we will be definitely delving into the subject again, because I wanted to
Yeah.
mention black and white thinking, but that is a whole different one. So
Yeah, make a note of that, and we'll come back and cover another angle. Let us know in the comments, or get in touch, send us a message if you've got things that you personally are living with fear and anxiety that you want us to touch on. It's a big subject, so this was just a bit of a
intro
high
to
level introduction. Yeah, so do get in touch. Make sure that you like the podcast wherever you get your podcast from, and subscribe.
yeah, and if you've got any comments about the cat at all, please do add them.
Please do have them, because no cats were harmed in the making of this podcast. Thank you, Margaret.
Thank you, Adele. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.